So we are here today to just in general discuss, in general your career as an author, as a writer, and then of course mention the new book. I hope that it reverses it and it doesn't look backwards.
No, it looks right on my end.
Oh, wonderful, great. So it's just me. So I wanted to know, what was it that initially interested you in writing and being an author? Just that sort of like initial.
I always liked to read. I was a huge reader as a kid, and I wanted to be an author for my whole life. Even before I even wrote, that was what I wanted to do. And I'm not really sure, you know, when that it must have been like 5. So I have just always wanted to do it. And I have been sort of single-mindedly um, dedicated to making that happen since I was a kid. And that's to say, I didn't really write when I was a kid. I wrote in high school some poetry stories, but I wasn't someone who was working on a novel. I just sort of was dedicated where I read a ton, and I always like nursed the fantasy of someday I'm going to be a writer.
Did working at that bookstore, did that Book Soup, I believe it was called?
Book Soup, yes. Book Soup in West Hollywood. Yeah, I worked there. I'm from LA and I went to school in Ohio, and I would come home for the summers, and I worked there the summer between my sophomore and junior year. And then when I was finishing up my degree, I got a degree in a double major in English and creative writing. And all my friends, where they're getting their like pantsuits and going on these interviews. And I was just like, I want to be a writer. So what do I have to do to become a writer? And I didn't want to have a job that was so demanding that it wouldn't leave me time to write. And I wanted something that was, would like inspire me. And so going back to Book Soup made the most sense. I was rehired immediately. And I did not make very much money, but I liked the work, and it was retail. So, it's hard on your feet, and, customer service can be difficult at
Oh
times,
yeah.
but I didn't have to think about it too much when I wasn't there. And I wasn't writing as part of the job. So I could keep that part of my brain, usable for myself. And then of course it was really inspiring I got to meet so many authors. All my coworkers were big readers. So I learned about all kinds of books, and then just like shelving books. And again, nursing the fantasy that someday I could have a book on the shelf. So I worked there for 2 years before I not finally, it wasn't that long, but I worked there for 2 years, and then I went to graduate school. So I always say it was sort of like another education between college and graduate school of having that job, because I learned so much about how the publishing industry works and what it's like to be a living. Because before that, aside from my teachers in college, I didn't really, I didn't grow up knowing writers. It wasn't like the world that I was in. So that was really helpful.
Would you recommend it as a tactic for anyone out there who wants to be a writer?
Yeah, I think retail in general is a great job if you want to do something cerebral on the side, because you're not using all of your brain power for your work. The pay is not fantastic, but books I did have benefits, and I lived with my dad for 6 months, and then I moved in with my boyfriend, who is now my husband, and he also worked at Book Soup. And we had
Wow.
this gorgeous apartment, but it was in Koreatown. There was no parking. It was pretty rough then. But we made it work. So financially, I wasn't saving any money, obviously, but I was just paying enough of my bills to get by. And so, yeah, I do recommend it in that regard. I did feel like it was feeding my writing life in an interesting way.